What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. We have some absolutely huge game-changing news that you guys have probably already heard about. That is Konami releasing an emergency ban list. They can just say that it's an adjusted list, but I mean, come on now. We all know the writing on the walls. This is a emergency ban list because we know that Performances and Pals was out of control. Pepe was just... It was a serious problem, and it seemed like if you weren't running like a deck to specifically counter it, like Monarchs, it seemed like you just kind of got shit on by the deck. I'm gonna be completely honest. I never felt comfortable playing against Pepe with anything but Monarchs. Like, I played a lot of decks in the format. I never felt like I could win unless I was actually playing, you know, one specific deck that was designed to counter it, because the deck was just so consistent and it was so really powerful. And even with Monarchs, I had to have a pretty good opening hand to kind of run with them. So anyways, this is really big news because some of you might not know this, but this is only the third time ever that Konami has done an emergency ban list. They did one when 2008, after Phantom Darkness was released. That was kind of like known as the Dad Return format. Konami decided to just outright ban Dimension Fusion and Dark Magician of Chaos mid-format because they were arguably the two best cards in the entire game. They caused FTK loops and, you know, like OTKs. And honestly, in Dad Return format, like turn 3 was considered the late game because that's how fast the game really was. And then Upper Deck actually did one in 2006 where they banned Cyberstein in a TCG outright, and they didn't even get Konami's permission or their goodwill to do it. They just was like, we're just fucking getting rid of it. So this is not something that they do very often. You know, in 10 years, this is only the third time that it's happened. So we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening on the list. They've also got an errata that they've done, and these all take effect February 8th. So essentially, if you're running Performances and Pals, you had better get it out of your system at YCS Atlanta, because that's pretty much going to be the last YCS that you can run this deck at full strength. Everything else is just going to be a much weaker version of the deck. For forbidden cards, we have Performance Plushfire, Performance Damage Juggler, and Tellarknight Ptolemaeus. These were all incredibly predictable. The first two were taken directly off of the January OCG ban list, where, I mean, everybody thought that these were justified. Plushfire, in my opinion, the fact that it was not once per turn is what sealed the fate of that card. Because you got to think, it's too many ways to blow your own scales up. Like, and Konami keeps releasing more ways. Like, we originally had Luster Pendulum and Wavering Eyes. Like, okay, well, yeah, that's only 2 ways. And then we got Pendulum Sorcerer. And then we got freaking Master Pendulum. And it's like, yo, there's too many ways to blow your own scales up. And for it not to be once per turn, you know, you can blow them up, and then people make Ignister, and they can blow them up further, and the card just keeps making more advantage. And it's, you know, like, you can activate it 3-4 times in a turn, and it's just it's way too powerful in my opinion. Damage Juggler was, I think, the most ban-worthy card right this second. I would even say over Wavering Eyes, because Damage Juggler is... It's probably like the highest utility card in the entire game right now. Not only does it stop any damage, but, well, it can stop battle damage as well. But then it's like it automatically replaces itself, and it can be played during either player's turn. So, like, even during your turn, if your opponent, like, Wavering Eyes you can, like, block it with a damage. Like, what? That is so stupid. And then you just banish it, and you automatically go plus. And when people were playing Omega, they could just recycle it. So I think that the card was, like, way too good. Essentially, for Damage Juggler to not warrant at least a limit, the entire, like, after Clash of Rebellion, the entire performance, like, archetype had to basically suck for this card not to get hit on the ban list. So kind of like good riddance. And you know Plushfire is bad card design because that shit just came out in Dimension of Chaos. Like, it came out in Dimension of Chaos in the TCG and in the OCG, and it's already banned. Like, that never happens where a card comes out and it's, like, basically banned by the next set. So that's Konami saying, okay, we fucked up right there, because, like, usually that only happens with, like, shit like Dark Strike Fighter. Like, they release it and then by the next set it's banned. Like, okay, they admit. Or that happened with, like, Spellbook of Judgment, or the Dragon Rulers. They did that with the Baby Rulers. Ptolemaeus, in my opinion, also had to go. That happened in the OCG on the same list as Norton. If you twisted my arm and said that I had to ban one of those, Ptolemaeus would have been the easy ban. Don't get me wrong, I would, like, if Norton got banned, I wouldn't, cry over spilled milk. I think Norton is a ban-worthy card. But, like, Ptolemaeus, in my opinion, it gives decks access to cards that they shouldn't have. I don't like that. I don't like that heroes can make Cyber Dragon Infinity. Like, that's stupid. I'm not a fan of this crossing over archetype shit. Like, there's no reason why I said Tellarknight player should be able to make, Artifact Durundle when you run no level 5 monsters, or why New Lightsworn should be able to make Cyber Dragon Infinity. Like, that's absurd. If you make Cyber Dragon Infinity in Dino Mist or in Cyber, like, that's where it's supposed to be. You're running all machine decks. Like, that's fine. But we don't need people making Pallades and Performapals. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not running any Constellars. You're not even running, like, real level 5 monsters. Why are you exceeding into these cards that you're really not supposed to have access to? So, get rid of Ptolemaeus. I expect, like, Cyber Infinity's price is about to fucking tank. That card's gonna be like $20, maybe even $15. Next up for the limits, we've got Performapal Scroll Combat Joker, Performapal Monkey Board, and Luster Pendulum, the Draco Slayer. These are, like, first off, I don't understand how the last 2 months, every single day, Konami has not been comparing Stratos to Joker, because basically it's like the same card now. To me, Performapal Scroll Combat Joker, who should have been an ultra rare in that damn structure deck, like, he's the new face of Pendulum Summoning in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, he is essentially Stratos. Stratos used to be, for the entire GX era, I would say that Stratos was the face of the fucking era. Like, he went in so many decks, and he was always the turn one. He was even in fucking Gladiator Beast, because you could search Prisma. Like, to me, I think that Joker has become that for Pendulum Summon decks, or at least for anything relating to, like, Performapals or, Perform Mages or anything like that. The card just doesn't search Performapals. It searches Odd Eyes. It searches, like, so many things. It searches Pendulum Magicians, and, like, that card gives you so much utility. It's not once per turn for some dumb reason. I don't understand that at all. I think that Monkey Board, this was unexpected to me, because now I think that, like, this is one of the ones that's, like, Pepe is going to just be pretty much, like, really, really hurt, because you got to think, now if you play a deck that you easily would have scraped, like Cosmo, let's say that you open Joker and then you get Monkey Board. If your Monkey Board gets, like, Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit, which, a deck like Cosmo, they main deck because Teleport and whatnot, I mean, don't you fucking basically lose at that point? Like, you've basically used 2 of your limited cards and you don't even have a Pendulum Scale. So, like, you basically just get fucked at that point. So that really hurts. Luster Pendulum, in my opinion, also a very good hit. This card at 3, way too much utility with shit like Ignister. I think that this card, it allowed way too many, like, it just seemed like it was a staple in every single Pendulum deck. Like, it was like no reason not to run this in everything. You know what I mean? It's like a monster form of Wavernize. It just accelerates your plays, and it advances your game state without your opponent really doing anything. But then on top of that, like, when it was on the field, it was even, like, it was just as good as it was when it was in the Pendulum Zone, because it can make Ignister, it can make Dinister, it can make Majester. Like, the card is just, it's like the Swiss Army knife for every Pendulum deck. Like, every Pendulum deck just wants to run this card. I run it in my my Dino Mist, I run it in my Magispectors. Like, you run that shit in everything. Which I guess makes sense because the whole lore, like, he actually met the Magispectors and the Dino Mist and whatnot. And then lastly, there is an errata. The errata is to Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer. They just errated the word, or equal to the number of monsters to equal to the number of cards. It's basically how it was ruled in Japan and how it's printed in Japan. I don't really think that it changes that much. The card is going to be just as good as it was before. It's just everything around it is just so much weaker because, you would think that if just the first 3, like, if they just did the bans here, you'd be like, oh, okay, Pepe is dead. They can't really run the Perform Age engine anymore because all they have is, like, Hat Tricker and Trick Clown and pretty much, like, Mirror Conductor, so you're not going to really run that because shit's not searchable anymore. But now, you even think of a deck like Draco Pals, this shit is not as good in the TCG as it will be in the OCG by far, because Joker is limited here, Monkey Board's limited, Luster Pendulum, like, they ran 3 of all of those cards. So now it's like, man, if you were a Pepe fan, if you were a fan of Performages or Performapals, like, you basically have to fucking start from 0 now. Like, I don't think you're as good as Monarchs. I don't think you're as good as Cosmo. I don't even think you're as good as Burning Abyss right now. So in about 5 days, I think there might be a mad rush to see what the best pendulum deck is. Like, who knows? Like, maybe it's fucking Magic Specters, but it's that you can't definitively say that like Performages or Performapals or whatever you want to name this deck that used to exist is definitively one of the best decks of the format, because I don't know what the best deck of the format is anymore, but it ain't this. That's a fact. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll be making more videos surrounding this topic and of course the effects of the emergency ban list. Thank you guys for watching as always.